Hello everyone, this is Intermediate O. I'm a Bleach fan currently living in Tokyo, and tonight I actually went to go see one of the premieres that they had here in Tokyo and all across Japan, where they were showing the first two episodes of the new Bleach television series in theaters. So I went to go see that. Afterwards, there was a live show, and so this is just going to be kind of my little breakdown and summary of what I saw, and then also kind of just a review of the first two episodes. And so just in case there is anybody who is avoiding spoilers for the new season, if they're not caught up on the manga, I was reading the manga as it came out originally. And then prior to seeing this, I actually read the first 10 chapters of this final arc in the manga, just to be able to compare what they kept, what they took out, stuff like that. But I'll keep the first part non-spoilery, and then I'll tell you once I go into spoilers, because I do kind of want to go over how much they did cover. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to talk about the more general stuff, and then I'll tell for the anime only watchers if there's anybody like that out still when you need to go, you know what I mean? But so yeah, kind of the non-spoilery stuff about the event in general. First two episodes, and after that there was about a 30-minute presentation, a live show presentation that was being live streamed from somewhere else. I forgot the location for it. And they just had some of the voice actors come and talk about, their experience getting back to Bleach after all these years. The only real information that came out of that was that they have confirmed now that this final season is going to be a full year, 4 cours is what they said specifically. Though I don't believe they actually specified if it was a continuous 4 cours or if there might be it might be split up. I hope it's not split up. I hope it is just one continuous year, but there's a possibility that it might be split up. So, but we're looking at around 50-ish episodes. The other thing that they did mention during the event that I thought was just kind of a fun fact was actually the anime was it was greenlit 5 years ago. Both the actor for Rukia and Ichigo said that they were told by the staff that it's oh yeah, we're making the new season 5 years ago. But then it's taken this long to actually come to fruition. Moving on to the episodes themselves, one thing to note is that they did not show the opening theme or the ending theme for the episodes, but there was a credit scene at the very end. So at the end of the two episodes, there were credits, and the background music did seem to be the new opening theme song, but we still don't know what the opening sequence actually looks like. So yeah. And because of how that was structured as well, there was no next time previews or next episode previews, which is also where in the old OG series, they used to have the little bonus bits where it was usually non-canonical or a little explainer for something. The bonus bits, the after credits stingers, you know what I mean? So we don't know if we're gonna get that. It'd be cool to get it, but given the tone of the new season, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get that. And it's just just a generic next time look forward to this episode thing in the actual broadcast version. They did actually leave in the episode titles though for number 1 and number 2, which I'll get into when I talk about the actual episodes more so in the spoilery section. But yeah, so they did leave those included. And also they did seem to leave what I assume are the eye catches. Halfway through the episode when they go on commercial break, there'll be an eye catch. And I think for the original television series, it was just A part, B part. And I remember Kone's paw being stamped on it. So instead of that, this time we seem to be getting something that's more akin to the eye catches that they used for Attack on Titan, where it's so in this case it's it seems to be a magenta and monochrome style kind of image that then has some sort of background information on the characters. Also not going to mention the information just in case it is spoilery, I guess. But yeah, so it seems more akin to the Attack on Titan eye catches this time around. And so finally, yeah, let's just get into the episodes themselves. I guess to start off with, the music, good. Same composer from the television series. It's a composer I really like, Shirosagi. He also does the Evangelion music. And so I was actually listening to the Evangelion soundtrack on my way to the movie theater, so that was nice. But the thing that people are probably way more interested in is the animation. Does the animation hold up? And I'm yes, the animation is good. Everybody can calm down. I think the other concern that I heard people mentioning was does the animation feel like it, is a continuation of the original series? And I would say yes, but it's it does feel like a 2022 anime, because that's what it actually is, you know what I mean? And in a way, I'd actually say it felt pretty theatrical, which, the fact that I was seeing it in a theater probably helped with that, but it definitely gave me that vibe more so than other stuff. I remember watching the, what do you call it? the My Hero Academia movies in theaters, and sometimes those just feel like an extended anime episode. Like it feels like a television anime to me too. And this felt pretty theatrical. Like I actually did like the experience a lot. But I still would say that there is like a significant kind of like, change in style between the old show and this show. Like I would say like it's similar to the way like you think that, the first episode of Bleach doesn't really look like the last episode of the original OG Bleach anime. Just like the chapters, you know what I mean? Like Ichigo in chapter 1 looks like nothing like Ichigo in like the final chapters, you know what I mean? Like the character design's completely changed. And so for this new show, it's like, yeah, like going from the last episode of the OG series to the first episode of this series is a bit of like, it's definitely like it's like a bigger jump than what it would be if there was a gradient, connecting that with like all these episodes those years. I mean, okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Is basically if Bleach had been made, like had been making episodes all these years in between, this is what Bleach would have looked like anyways. You know what I mean? Like this is what the 2020 version of Bleach would have looked like. So it's like, yeah, that's what we're watching. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about to close off the non-spoilery section is basically the pacing, because I think that's what people were concerned about, especially like before we knew the episode count, which, yeah, I was like, this is why I reread the manga beforehand, because I really wanted to see what was going to be the chapter to episode ratio, like how quickly were they going to adapt it. So, the first 2 episodes adapt the first 9 chapters of the final arc. And it's pretty significant. Like almost every, like both of the episodes like ended on the end of like a chapter note. So yeah, it's really easy to separate the chapters into like, the episodes into chapter adaptions. Like, oh, this episode is this many chapters and this episode is that many chapters. So as you can see, it is a pretty quick adaptation. And so that's, yeah, I would like to talk about the pacing more. Actually, no, I can talk about the pacing. It's not really that spoilery. I will say that, because they did also cut out little bits and pieces from the manga as well, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section, but almost everything they cut out is like, it's not like it, like the stuff they cut out, it basically doesn't even seem like it was for time. Like if they wanted to add it back in, like they were basically saving like, like 30 seconds. Like it really wasn't that big of a deal. So I would say like, I actually like the pacing a lot. Bleach was always pretty, Bleach always had pretty, quick flowing chapters, especially when it would get to the action sequences. But I'm surprised because these first few chapters of this new arc actually are pretty wordy. Like, yeah, they could have gotten away with stretching them even longer, but this pace feels very snappy. I like it a lot. So yeah, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. When I think back on the arc itself, actually, all right, this may be like a little controversial to say, since like, the audience of this video is going to be like other Bleach fans. Because I consider myself a Bleach fan. I would even consider myself a Bleach apologist. But I feel like, is it safe to say that like, kind of the final arc is kind of the worst arc? I mean, if you're a Bleach fan, I feel like you should be able to like kind of like know what I mean by that. And like, you probably agree with me. And so because of that, I would say like, when I look back on how long the final arc is, like, it's shocking to me. Like the final arc ends up being like almost like 20 volumes worth of content. And basically, like, the final arc is as long as the original, like, Save Rukia saga. And I'm just like, oh, it does not feel like that long. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of material and, like, character development you get in, like, those first 20 volumes of Bleach does not feel anything like the last 20 volumes of Bleach. Like, it feels like a lot of, I don't want to say nothing burger, but, like, it does feel like a lot of stuff that wasn't really emotionally investing, as much as it was kind of just like, like fan service for the sake of fan service. I don't know. But okay, to digress, the reason why I was bringing that up is because to me, when I would think back on the final season of Bleach, the final arc of Bleach, to me it feels like, oh, there's like 26 episodes of content there. And then when you do the math and you're like, oh, no. Like based on the amount of chapters and like volumes, it's like there is like, if they're doing like 3 chapters an episode, even that wouldn't be enough episodes. Like it would be like over 50, ranging to like the 60s and like low 70s, I believe. I did all the math on my Twitter one time. I'll put like the screenshots here. But so yeah, and I really did not like to me the final arc of Bleach, it makes sense as like content wise, it feels like a 26 episode anime. And so the fact of knowing that it was probably going to be a 50 episode anime, I was like hoping that it wouldn't be longer than that. You know what I mean? Like I was hoping it would be like at most 52 episodes. And I would actually think the perfect amount, to me personally, I think even if they had gone shorter, like 39, I think that would have been even better. because I think these early episodes are going to be probably better because like it's it's them kind of showing off. It's like their big revival, and I really hope that we don't come 6 months down the line and then everybody kind of drops off because it kind of drops off like the pacing kind of drops off in the middle there, and so hopefully that will not happen. But I'm still kind of concerned about it. All right, and so that's kind of the end of this non-spoiler section, and from now on I'm going to get into what the actual like what they adapted, how they adapted it, and kind of what was kept or what was rearranged or what was like changed from the manga. All right, so I'm going to start the spoiler section. 3, 2, 1, now. All right, so just go back to the pacing thing because that's what we're just talking about. Is the first episode actually adapts the first 5 chapters of the Thousand Year Blood War arc. So I believe that is chapters 480 to 484. And the episode itself is also titled after that first chapter of the arc, which in the Japanese version, I believe is, what is it called? It's The Blood Warfare, which is kind of, it was like the Englishy way of them translating like 1,000-year blood war. So I wonder what they're going to do with that for like the English version. I don't think they can really change it because when the titles pop up, it's like in English, like on the actual graphics of the episode. So I think they're kind of stuck with that for this. And then the second episode covers the next 4 episodes, which I believe is the next episode covers the next 4 chapters, which is chapter 485 to 488. And it is titled after the title of chapter 485, which is Foundation Stones. So yeah. And this is the thing. So like they adapt so much in these episodes and it does not feel rushed. And they do cut out a little bit of snippets from the manga, but I'm going to actually go over those at the very end because they're not really that important. So first I'm going to go over the changes that they made to the actual content, like chronologically themselves. So first we'll go over episode 1. So a small minor change is that the opening is actually narrated by Iwak, which I think is like the official like English pronunciation. So it's like, yeah, it's that opening narration that was used in one of the original promotional videos about Iwak just saying like, like after 900 years he does this, after 99 years he does that, and then after 90 years he does this, and after 9 years, blah, blah. So it's just that opening narration, and then it transitions to the opening of the episode. So one thing that they did change, which I was wondering how they were going to handle it, was the introduction of the 2 new Soul Reapers that were stationed in Karakura Town, which are Yuki and Shino. Was it Yuki's? I think he goes by like Ryunosuke. So it's like Ryunosuke, Yuki, and then the other girl is Shino. And so like I remember when it originally came out in the manga, that like really threw me off because for the first couple chapters, it seems like they're like our new POV characters. And the first chapter of the final arc, specifically of Bleach, does not make a lot of sense when you don't take it that way. Like it really just feels like he had introduced these 2 characters and they were supposed to be big characters. Like Yuki was actually even in like a color spread, like I want to say like 4 or 5 chapters in. So like they were still like, it felt like they had plans for them and they just like completely fall off. Like it's very strange, but I will say they work much better for the opening for this new anime because they feel kind of like our POV characters for like, the revival of Bleach, which originally it wasn't a revival. You know what I mean? It was just like, the new arc of Bleach. So it really didn't make sense unless there were supposed to be new, bigger characters. But it ends up working here. It actually ends up working so well that it almost feels like if you told me that Shino and Yuki were like anime original characters that they made just for the first episode of the new arc of Bleach, like it would actually make a lot of sense. But yeah, so they kept them inside. They did change a little bit. Where the original chapter, it opens with them in, in Soul Society still. And they're like being briefed by, what's his name? Imoyama, the Afro guy who was in Karakura Town. And like you get some back and forth with like Yuki, Imoyama, and Shino. So instead they just open up with all of them already coming to Karakura Town. And so they migrate some of the conversation that Yuki and Shino had in Soul Society. They migrate that into the conversation that they have in the sky of Karakura Town instead. So it's not like that big of a deal, but it is like a small change. From there, things to follow pretty much the same. Yuki goes his own separate way. He gets chased by a hollow, and then that hollow leads him to like another 3 hollows that have taken out Shino. And so I guess this is something I actually probably should have mentioned in the non-spoiler section as well, but they did go the route of doing CG hollows. So I believe, like, there are a couple shots where they're in 2D, but for the most part, the hollows, whenever they're moving, are in CG. So that's kind of like, yeah, I guess that's like kind of one of those things that did change between the original series and this series. And I would just say, like, luckily they're not going to be dealing with a ton of hollows, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Okay, but the big change that leads into, though, is that, so in the original manga, there was just 4 hollows total. In this case, once Yuki, I should call him Ryunosuke, once Ryunosuke is reunited with Shino after she's been attacked, in addition to those 3 hollows, when Ichigo and the team shows up, like, an entire swarm of hollows from the city, and all of these are like, they're not tiny hollows, they're like kaiju-sized hollows, start showing up and surrounding the building. I'm talking about, like, probably like 24 hollows show up. Like, it's insane, and they're all like really big. And so this is kind of the first like fillery part that they put in, and it is kind of just supposed to be like a fan service reintroduction to these characters. And I do kind of, I like the idea of it. I'll get into why I did not like it ultimately. Besides, so like, it did take me out a little bit because of the amount of hollows was like ridiculous, and they were crawling all over the buildings, and I'm just like, why are there so many hollows all of a sudden? Like, it is really crazy, like, how many there are, and like, why are they even there? But okay, so it is like, it would be cool. It would be cool because basically what they do is they give everybody a chance to shine. So like, Orihime shows up, and then she takes out some hollows. Apparently, she uses like her defensive one, so I actually don't know how she took them out, but she pushes them away. So they give Orihime a little time to shine, they give Uryu a little time to shine, but between that, they give Chad a little bit of time to shine. And this thing, I love Chad, and they did my boy dirty, because what they make Chad do, he wouldn't do that. It's like my Chad would not do that. I was actually genuinely upset. So basically what Chad does is he punches, like, I want to say it's like a couple of hollows, like he punches them really hard with, like, his full-bringer fists, and he punches them into a building, like into like a, like, a tall, like, 10 plus story building that's across the street, and lights are inside in the building. It like blew my mind. I'm just like, what is happening? Because like, now, okay, so not only does he do this, which is bad, like he punches the hollows into the building, and then what they decided to do to make it like stylish is that it does that thing where when he punches things, and then, it makes the wall behind them crumble into a hollow shape. And so then the building behind him gets like decimated into like that hollow, no, what do you call it? The hollow skull shape that his fists do. And I'm just like, I don't like this at all. Like, I'm just like, there were lights on in that building. It's like, there were people in that building. They probably died. Like, it was insane. I really did not like that. They did my boy Chad very dirty. And then, yeah, so then you get Uryu, and then you get Ichigo. And then some people actually pointed this out in the original PV2, is that it seems that like that was the opening fight, and that Ichigo goes Bankai for some reason. And so yes, they did add that. So Ichigo, for fan service reasons, does go Bankai at the end of the fight to finish off the hollow. And yeah, and then from then on, it is kind of the same as the manga. You go back to Shino and Yuki, Ryunosuke, as he like wakes up in Ichigo's room, and from there it's like pretty much the same. Well, actually, the end of that fight is also where, like, that's basically the cutoff for chapter 1 as well. So that was basically just an adaptation of chapter 1, and just like the first couple of minutes, and then the rest of the episode ends up kind of like, pretty much directly adapting, then following 4 chapters, oh my god, and then like the final shot is basically the exact same final shot from chapter 484 of the manga, with Yahweh cutting off one of the Vandenrijk's arms. I forgot the dude's name, but it's like one of the generic officers who gets killed anyways. So yeah, so that's the end of the first episode. Then you start the second episode, and the only thing of real note that they add to it that's like filler-wise for the second episode is they actually add a flashback for when Yuak caught Hallibell. But the strange thing is they don't even make it like a fun fan servicey flashback where we get to see them fight. It's like Hallibell is basically already defeated, and Yuak is like floating towards her. This is actually in the PVC. I'll put like the image of it up, like floating towards her, like menacing with power. And the reason why I guess they're bringing it up is because in this version, Pesce's telling them about what happened to Hallibell, because Pesce, Dondonchaka, and Nell were apparently all there with Hallibell when she got captured. And so Hallibell is like telling them, it's like, oh no, go away, like save yourselves, you know what I mean? And then Yahweh comes and like finishes her off and like takes her. And that's basically it. It's like a very strange thing to add. Hopefully I'm not forgetting. Like, hopefully that wasn't something that they established later on in the manga. But to me, like with the first 10 chapters that I reread, that's definitely not in there. Like, there was there was no flashback for Halle Bell. All right, and so that's it for episode 2. Episode 2 also basically ends at the very last page of, what do you call it, of chapter 488 as well. Yeah, I believe that is the chapter. Yes, it ends basically the exact same way. So yeah, so it's pretty much first episode, first 5 chapters, next episode, the next 4 chapters. So yeah, as for the things that they kind of like took out from the manga, they did take out a short scene at the beginning of chapter, what is it, 481, which is basically the second chapter of the final arc, where it's just a scene of like Hiyori and Lisa like walking home from like a bath in like Karakura town. And so it's like, yeah, you don't really need that. So they just cut that out. But the thing that I'm kind of more surprised that they did cut out was Byakuya's funeral speech that he does for Sasakibe, the lieutenant of Squad 1, like, Yamato's like right-hand man or whatever. And the only reason I can think that they did do it, because it's the same thing, it's like both these things, it's not like they would have like taken much time. So I think the first case was just like, it wasn't really needed, so they just cut it. This one was like a little bit more emotional. So I feel like the reason why they did cut it is probably linked to what they also did cut, which is when Hoshwalth picks up the medallion that the Arrancar Quincy guy, Ebern, used to try and steal Ichigo's Bankai. He comments that, oh, it seems like he used it, but what they cut out of this adaptation is he doesn't comment on the fact that they weren't able to steal Ichigo's Bankai. So in this version, like, they know that they have the power to steal, like, as the audience, if you're just watching the anime, you know that they have the power to, negate Bankai, to basically make Bankai disappear. But you don't know that they have the power to steal Bankai yet. So I think that's kind of why they may have cut those two scenes, is they want it to maybe hit harder later on when they show back up with Sasakibe's Bankai to kind of upset General Yamamoto. But yeah, it's a small change anyways. All right, and so that's basically it. That's basically all I have. Oh, I guess, okay, one last thing is that there was like a little bit of a more extended sequence in that second episode with the Tres Bestia, the 3 Fracciones of Halle Bell, their fight with one of the Sternritter, or like some of the Sternritter people, you know what I mean? The Quincy's. Their fight actually is like a little bit more extended from what it was in the manga, so that was kind of nice. So that's basically it. I will be watching the show when it comes out. I'll probably be checking out even the first and second episode anyways, because I want to see, the opening and ending sequences and how it compares like on a weekly basis. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Bleach content from me. Put a comment on the bottom if you would like me to do stuff in the future. Jump Festa is coming up here in Japan in December, and I don't know if they're going to be doing anything for Bleach. But yeah, I am open to doing more Bleach stuff. So yeah, like I said, I'm a Bleach apologist, basically. So yeah, see you guys next time.